Hi, welcome to this bite-sized session on supporting family wellbeing. I'm Lorraine Hamilton from Hull and East Yorkshire Mind, and we're just going to have a look together at some of the practical things that we can all do to support our family through these sort of challenging situations that we've been faced with and as things continue. So first of all, during the session, we're going to have a look at the 5 ways to wellbeing, which is a really sort of key foundation of good mental health and wellbeing. And there's lots of practical things we can do to try and encourage that. We're going to look at some links between food and mood. What we eat and drink has a real impact on how we're feeling. So, lots of links to our mental well-being. Examine the importance of sleep. Sleep is a real foundation of good mental well-being. So if we can improve our quality of sleep, and again, lots of practical things we can do to improve that, we can actually be more resilient and feel more on top of our game. And then finally, we're going to focus on routine, which is really important. And if we can establish a routine, if we haven't already, then again, that's going to really help everybody in the family stay well and be resilient and have better mental health. So to start off with then, our mental well-being is an important part of our overall health. It's just as important as our physical health, and there are some really practical steps that we can take to improve it. The past weeks and months have been really challenging for us, and I'm sure we've all had sort of peaks and troughs, and it's been a little bit of a roller coaster with our mental well-being as a family. So there are lots of things that are outside our control, things that we can't change. But what we can do is we can focus on the things that we can change. And that's what I'm going to sort of hopefully encourage you to do. So let's look at some of these practical steps together. The first thing that I'm going to introduce you to is the 5 ways to wellbeing. This is about incorporating all of these 5 things into our daily lives as much as possible so that we can improve our overall well-being, but also we can improve our mental capacity. So as well as being good for our physical health, it's really good for our mental health. It helps us to be more resilient, to improve our emotional literacy, so how we think about our mental health, our self-awareness, and it actually helps us to sort of keep building on those things, to stay in the best position that we can be, to deal with the kind of ups and downs of everyday life. So I'm going to now give you a bit more detail around what these 5 things mean. Some of them are probably fairly self-explanatory, but as we go round, and I'll give you some examples of how we might actually do some of these things. So first of all, connect. Try and connect in some way as a family unit. That might mean that every now and then, not even every meal, but every time you've got an opportunity to actually have a meal together, Bring your family unit together, exercise together, maybe after you've had your evening meal, or if you're able to at some point during the day, go for a walk, get out and actually do some exercise together. Have a kickabout in the garden, do whatever it is that you can enjoy, but there's something that you can do together. And really take time to listen to what's going on for each of you. You will all be experiencing different things at different times, and you will all have different thoughts and feelings about what has been going on. But really try and sort of have time to listen. And that's why in recent campaigns that you'll have seen in the television ads, the ITV, Britain Get Talking, all about just trying to just sit down and have that opportunity to just listen to each other. And that can be a really important thing, but also a really kind of good thing for, again, building resilience and just seeing how everybody is getting on with the situation. The next part is be active, which is probably fairly self-explanatory, really, but it's not about running a marathon or hours and hours of exercise every day. In fact, 20 minutes exercise every day is really good for our mental well-being. And that could be anything. It could be going for a walk, it could be getting on your bicycle, it could be sort of doing some exercise with Joe Wicks on his morning sessions, which have just come to an end. But I mean, he's been the nation's PE teacher and done a fantastic job of keeping everybody moving. So, just actually incorporating a little bit of exercise into your daily routine can be both good for your physical health and extremely good for your mental health, because it just gives you that time to switch off and not be sort of anxious about the situation or overthinking things or ruminating about the past. The next part is the take notice. We live in this really sort of fast-paced world. We've had to slow down, and that's been a really positive thing. And certainly I've spoken to lots of people over the past weeks who've sort of said, actually, I didn't really realise the pace of life that I was going at, and being forced to kind of slow down and not be able to sort of be going somewhere every 5 minutes has been really positive for a lot of people. So it's really about, is our mind full of the day-to-day sort of things that make us anxious and worried and stressed? Or can we take a little bit of time out to just engage with what's around us? And again, you can link that into your exercise. So you can link that into you going for a walk, going for a walk in some green space and just paying attention to nature and enjoying what's around you and taking in all the sort of sights and sounds and smells can be so positive for how you feel with your mental health. Again, if you're doing that, you haven't got time to think about the other things. You haven't got time to be overthinking or worrying or be anxious. So being mindful in any way can be really, really positive for you. And it's a very easy thing to do. You can even do it while you're eating a meal. Just actually pay attention to what you're eating. Take your time to eat it and taste it and smell it and see it. So there are lots of different ways to be mindful. It's not just about meditating and breathing exercises, though again, they can be really helpful. So give them a go if you've never tried to do anything mindfully. Just try it. Finally, in relation to the keep learning bit, it's about learning something new or relearning an old hobby. Certainly lots of people, I think, at the start of lockdown were going to learn all sorts of things, Russian, and I know a lot of people learnt to bake banana bread, and that seemed to be a popular thing. So, lots of things, hobbies, things that make us happy, give us some sort of satisfaction, but also we like to keep learning, so it's good for our kind of mental capacity, it's good for our emotional well-being. So think about sort of trying to learn some things or pick up some old hobbies, and again, sort of incorporate them as much as you can into your daily life. And the give. Give is not about giving money, although obviously, a lot of the charities at the moment need money because a lot of the fundraising has been sort of halted for now. But it's really about giving time, and there's been some absolutely amazing sort of examples of this. I think the NHS were absolutely overwhelmed at the beginning of lockdown in relation to how many people wanted to volunteer to do things like walking people's dogs or going and getting a little bit of shopping for them. So let's keep that going. Let's keep that kind of altruistic, giving to other people, giving a bit of ourselves and our time to help others, because it is a two-way street. If we're helping somebody else, then that makes us feel good. And it also obviously makes them feel good, that they're not isolated, they're not alone, that people do care, people are willing to do things for nothing. So I think any volunteering, however much time you've got to give, can be absolutely valuable. And again, it's really good for our overall mental well-being. So maybe think about exploring that if you've not done it and you've got time to do a little bit of that. See if you can actually keep that going. And then we move on to the things that we can be really proactive about as well in our daily lives. It's really important what we eat and what we drink is really important, not only for our physical health, but also for our mental health and well-being. So we've got some examples there of things, if we eat a sort of balanced diet with lots of sort of fruit and veg, things that are going to give us all the vitamins and nutrients that we need, then a lot of those things are good for our brain health and our mental health. For example, vitamin D is really sort of lack of vitamin D can be connected to things like depression. So, you know, in this country, we don't get a lot of sunlight. So we have to get our vitamin D in other ways, and that's through kind of food, or it might be through making sure that we get the right supplements and things. But actually just looking at our diet and what we sort of have to eat can be really important. And often when we're feeling really tired and sort of stressed and lacking in energy, we often crave the things that just give us that quick hit. So we might crave something like something sugary, and that's fine, because in the beginning we get that sort of like sugar hit that gives us the energy that we need. But very quickly that then ends up, we get this big crash. So then we feel quite lethargic and we can't concentrate and we feel tired. So, you know, thinking about trying to supplement sort of snacks and things like that with things that are going to give us a little bit more energy, help us feel on top of the game. We're going to feel less stressed. We're going to feel less anxious. So just thinking about that, we call it food and mood. There's a lot of good information on the National Mind website, and I've put it at the resources at the end, which you'll see around all of these things. We've got their water. You know, we know that we should drink lots of water for our physical health, but it's really important for our brain health. And again, if we're dehydrated, we can't concentrate, we can't sort of think about things properly, we can't problem solve. So, you know, trying to make sure that we have our sort of 2 litres of water a day, and trying to encourage our family to do the same sort of things, really. We've also got there things that are, again, not particularly good for us in relation to caffeine. Caffeine is particularly bad if we've got high levels of anxiety already. It's going to actually add to that. So just being aware of how much caffeine you have in. None of this is about cutting out things that we enjoy, because we all enjoy the sugary treats and the chocolate and the things like that. But it's about just, you know, things in moderation and trying to get the right balance of things, and just try it, because it can make a huge difference to how you're actually feeling. So avoiding things like sort of energy drinks, which have got a lot of caffeine in, dark chocolate, tea, coffee itself. There's lots of other things that you perhaps wouldn't even know. So just paying attention to what's on the labels of things, you know, paracetamol, things like that have got a lot of caffeine in. So just be aware and try and sort of cut down and see if that makes a difference to how you're feeling. The other thing, sleep, you know, really important. It's more about the quality of sleep that we get. And sometimes, you know, as we get older, we don't need as much sleep. When we're younger, we should have more sleep. So for an average sort of, for an adult, they say 7 to 8 hours of sleep, and that's so that we can get 4 full sleep cycles in. And a sleep cycle, we start off in sort of light sleep, which is the majority of our sleep cycle. Then eventually we'll go into the deeper part of our sleep, and the final part of that cycle is the REM part, and that's the bit that's really important for our mental health and well-being. That's the bit where we kind of process what's happened today and kind of, you know, put it all to one side, and we're able to move on and deal with the things that come up the next day. So if we can try and improve that amount of sleep and quality of sleep, then that's going to have a real impact on how we're feeling the following day. We all know when we're fatigued and tired that we can't concentrate, and, you know, whatever's going on with the family becomes really difficult to deal with because we're just so tired. So being able to actually improve our sleep. So lots of things we can do. Sometimes it's about the whole day. Think about sleep as what has happened in the whole day, because again, what we eat and drink can affect our sleep. You know, if we're eating sort of quite stodgy, heavy meals late in the evening, that's going to sort of keep us awake. Our body's got to process all of that food. If we're sort of doing things that keep our brains active, so the blue light on devices is particularly bad for us. It sort of keeps our brain busy and prevents us sort of getting that proper sleep. So you can get things that actually now mute off that blue light, so that if you are using a device, you know, later on in the evening before you go to sleep, it's not going to have that same effect. So you can look at alternatives. But actually thinking about the environment, is it too hot? Is it too cold? Is it too light? Is it too dark? You know, really practical things. Is your mattress getting a little bit old and lumpy? You know, are your pillows comfortable? It all sounds really stupid and very sort of simplistic, but these are things that we sometimes don't really pay attention to or have time to think about, and then we wonder why we're feeling so tired the following day and we can't get to sleep. So really sort of have a look. There's some really good stuff on the Sleep Council website that you'll find. There's also stuff on the National Mind website about sleep. So just have a think about some of the things you can do. And for some people, a sleep diary works. So actually, you know, to decide and unravel what it is that's meaning that you're not sleeping very well, complete a sleep diary, and you can download these off the Sleep Council website. There are other things that you can do. So there's some really good apps that you can get which are calming and relaxing. So just doing all the things that you do with the kids to get them off to bed can have a big impact on how you're feeling. You know, those routines of actually getting them, you know, sort of snuggled up and calm and ready for bed, and, you know, milky drink and all those kinds of things. Do that for everybody, do that for yourselves, and make that kind of a routine that you're able to do. And hopefully you'll find that your sleep will improve. I mean, obviously if sleep is a real problem, then you might need to speak to your GP and see about getting a referral to some specialists around sleep. But generally, my experience, lots of these real practical steps can make quite a big difference to how people are feeling, because they're getting that better quality of sleep, really. And then the last part is routine, really. You know, hopefully you'll have established some sort of routine, but I think we can always improve it, and we can always try and keep to that routine, because we start with the best of intentions and then things sort of slip away. And, you know, routine is really important. It's going to help us sort of feel in control of situations. It's going to help us do the problem solving and just have more enjoyable days as a family, really. So sticking to the sleep routine for everyone as much as possible. You know, it's not one rule for one and one for everybody else. It's all trying to stick to some sort of sleep routine. Be a good role model with your well-being. You know, you can't sort of tell the family that they've got to do one thing and then you're doing the opposite. So you need to be a good role model. It needs to be something that you're doing as a family unit, really. As I've said earlier, try at least having one meal a day together. You know, actually sitting down, having that time to listen to each other, having that time to kind of connect and interact with what's going on. Set aside time to do the activities, whether that's a hobby or some sort of sport or some sort of exercise together. You know, actually doing that will make a big difference. And then encourage everyone to talk about how they're feeling. You know, sort of make it a family unit where if somebody is feeling a bit down, then they feel able to sort of talk about that. And then as a unit, you can support each other. And usually that will pass. Obviously, if it doesn't and you've got real concerns, then you need to think about speaking again. Probably the GP would be the first port of call, but really sort of speaking to somebody about what it is that's going on. But equally, there's a lot of self-help stuff out there that might actually support whatever's going on. And we've got some good resources for you to sort of look at and maybe get lots of self-help information from as well. And finally, some of those sort of useful resources. Through the Head Start funding within Hull, you've got How Are You Feeling? So you can access that, and there's lots of information for parents and carers and families and young people. So just have a look, find the right resources that are going to suit you. Young Minds is a really good website with lots and lots of resources which are really kind of focused towards young people, whatever age. So, you know, if there are some things where some sort of self-help for one of the members of your family might be needed, then that's a good place to look. The National Mind website, as I've said, lots of free resources on there that you can download, which are really helpful to improve overall well-being. Hull City Psychological Services have got lots of information in relation to, again, things for young people and their families. And then Living Life to the Full. Living Life to the Full is a cognitive behavioural therapy sort of online package that you can work your way through, which again gives lots of sort of tips and information and resources and ideas about how to improve well-being and sort of deal with things like anxiety and depression if that's the case. So hopefully you've found that useful, and it's about encouraging you to put some of these things in practice. You know, just give them a go. If they don't work, fine, but you don't know until you try. So, you know, I would really encourage you to just focus on the things that you can control and the things that you can do as a family, and see if that starts to make a difference, and hopefully it will. So thank you.